My take on the Riyadh Comedy Festival in Saudi Arabia, if you do it and you come back, all praises be to Allah. If you come back, and first of all, I'm going to count your fingers and your toes, make sure you got all of them. I'm going to say, good, I'm glad you're back. I'm glad it was a round trip, but guess what? We're going to make fun of you for a little bit. And that's the rule. No one's being excommunicated from the comedy society. Everyone is welcome back. Everyone can come back to wherever they told jokes before, but just know people are going to make fun of you a little bit. The same way we're going to make fun of you if we saw you at the inauguration. The same reason we're going to make fun of you if we saw you caping for... If you were standing next to Joe Biden and licking an ice cream cone in aviator glasses with him, we would make fun of you, okay? That's how it should be, and that's how it's been for so long. But this one thing is supposed to make us go, no, please, no. Because if you do that festival, you're performing for their Don Jr. if Don Jr. could kill people. If Don Jr. had his own wing at Rikers, that's who you're performing for. And if you go over there and say, oh, they were so nice to me, great, good, I'm glad you made it back. But guess what? We get to make fun of you for a little bit.
This is a good one. I am Jesse David Fox, senior writer at Vulture and author of Comedy Book. Today, instead of a traditional deep dive interview, we're going to talk about the biggest comedy news story happening right now, the Riyadh Comedy Festival. The lineup includes some of the biggest names in comedy right now and ever. Dave Chappelle, Kevin Hart, Bill Burr, Gabriel Iglesias, Aziz Ansari, Louis C.K., Andrew Schultz, Pete Davidson, Tom Segura, Chris Tucker, Whitney Cummings, and more. Many of the performers are comedians known for being vocal defenders of free speech, especially when it comes to their right to say whatever they want, thus raising eyebrows for their decision to perform for a government known for political censorship and human rights abuses. Human Rights Watch, a nonprofit organization that monitors human rights standards all over the world, has accused comedians performing at the festival of being complicit in deflecting attention from Saudi Arabia's brutal repression of free speech and other pervasive human rights violations. For their troubles, the comedians are being paid very, 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 very well. One comedian implied the offer was 40 times their normal rate. Less famous acts might be getting somewhere in the mid-six figures, where the biggest names are surely getting millions. In exchange for the money, the comedians must compromise their free speech, as a release contract showed that the festival organizers demanded the comedians not perform, and I quote, any material that may be considered to degrade, defame, or bring into public disrepute, contempt, scandal, embarrassment, or ridicule against the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, the Saudi royal family, legal system, government, or any religion. Though, according to Dave Chappelle, it was easier for him to do comedy in Riyadh than to do comedy in America right now, where you can get canceled if you discuss Charlie Kirk. Whereas Jessica Kirson, one of the few women and queer people to perform, expressed regret upon returning. While she wanted to help LGBTQ people in Saudi Arabia feel seen and valued, she also deeply regretted participating under the auspices of the Saudi government. She says she'll be donating the entirety of her fee. Aziz Ansari says he'll be donating a portion of his fee, though he feels performing there was ultimately worth it, and its potential to help move the Saudi culture forward. So, are the best comedians in the world just doing their act, participating in a cultural exchange of ideas? Or are they cashing a huge check and looking the other way? Or are they actively helping launder the reputation of Saudi Arabia? That's what we will discuss today with Jay Jurden, one of New York's great stand-up comedians, who, for the record, did not attend the Riyadh Comedy Festival. So, here is Jay Jurden. I'm here with Jay Jurden. Thank you for joining me.
Thank you for having me, Jesse David Fox.
All right, so I want to start here. We're going to do a role play.
Okay.
I'm playing your agent.
Yes.
You're playing yourself.
Yes.
Okay. Ring, ring, ring. I'm
okay.
With this.
What's up? Yeah.
Hey.
I'll take it down. I'll take the tweet down.
No. It's actually about something else.
Okay.
So it's Jesse, your agent.
Okay.
We got this offer.
Okay.
Crazy money.
Okay.
It's looking at $375K, flights, hotels.
Okay.
It's a comedy festival.
Okay.
In Riyadh, Saudi Arabia.
Oh, this
organized by the palace?
Okay.
But big money.
Okay.
What are you thinking?
Hold on. I gotta talk to my husband super quickly.
Yeah.
I'm gonna think it over. Okay. When you say by the palace, like Jamal Khashoggi, like that's
yeah. So the same prince that allegedly oversaw that.
Yeah.
Had a big initiative to get more involved in the entertainment industry.
Okay.
So the Saudi Wealth Fund is getting involved in the entertainment industry, and they think comedy is like the new frontier that they really want to explore with some of the, bravest and brightest up-and-coming
Okay.
comedians.
Jesse, you know I'm queer, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
There are other queer comedians.
Okay.
Currently. Offers are on the table.
Can I talk about that stuff on stage? It's a lot of my act. It's a lot of my act.
I think you can talk about it actually about yourself, but you can't imply there are any gay people living in Saudi Arabia.
Okay, all right. And the performance venue is not a roof, correct?
No.
Okay, all right. I'm gonna have to think it over. Hold on, I have Tim Dillon on the other line, so let me call you back. Bye.
And scene. Too hot in here for this.
You said that to Riyadh.
Yeah.
You had that air set to Saudi Arabia.
But realistically, imagine that. I mean, like, let's say 40 times your normal club rate they offer you. Would you think about it?
What's my number? Everyone would think about it. Everyone will think about $500,000. Everyone will think about $250,000. $250,000 to $500,000. That's usually when people go, wait a minute, okay. Anything under that, I'm kind of like, why? But if we're saying it's getting into the $250,000, $500,000 territory, my big thing is my personal safety and my fear. So specifically for me, selfishly for me, and it's the only lens I can really see it through, I wouldn't do it.
Yeah.
People say, oh, Jay, would you ever go to Dubai? I would never go to Dubai. I just can't do it. I don't love slavery. I'm weird. I don't like it if they can take away your passport when you get there. I don't love that being the ominous threat. And I know there are queer people doing it. I know Wayne Brady's doing it. In my opinion, Wayne Brady is probably going to sing a couple of, Burt Bacharach songs. He's going to do a couple of short form improv games with them. I don't think that they're getting the most pansexual Wayne Brady. Mm-hmm. That's my opinion.
Yeah.
As a queer. With Jess Curson, I'm friendly with Jess Curson. I don't know. I hope she's safe. There's a fear there for me that I wish other people would demonstrate and at least voice. Because I'd be scared. That's just me. I'm a coward.
Yeah, I do think that is a factor that has not been voiced where they're like, if you arrive and are going to perform and are nervous, that's part of why they're paying you so much money.
Yes, right. And I know, everyone thinks, oh, you're not supposed to pocket watch, not supposed to talk about angel money. And the whole part of comedy right now is, everything's mysterious. And, some people, like Maria Bamford, are kind of, pioneers when it comes to transparency and when people get paid. I think Atsuko did a good job of being very transparent with as far as, some of the rules that were stated in this. This is when it gets really murky for me because let's say you do it, you go over there, you come back, you got $500,000. If you want the good credit and the good graces of Americans, you know what you do with $500,000? You give $200,000 or you give $100,000 to a charitable organization that helps queer people, that helps women, that helps journalists, that helps free speech, anything. Then, okay, maybe people won't make fun of you as much. But like I said before, the rule is if you do it, you come back, I'm making fun of you. Stavros made fun of Sam, Mark, and Chris Stefano to their faces on We Might Be Drunk. And you want to know why? Because Stavros is smart enough to be like, y'all doing that? What? Oh my God. And they were like, oh, they took it. And they're gonna be fine. You're gonna be fine if you come back and you let us make fun of you a little bit. Because guess what? This administration is so crazy, something else is gonna happen.
Yeah, I think it's fair. I think the free speech element is why we're talking about this. Because it's people have been performing in Saudi Arabia for a few years now. People much more famous than any of these comedians.
Yes. Performers, singers, big acts.
Big athletes obviously performing there. The
WWE?
Yes. The, how involved in sports, they had a movie festival, famous movie people there. And you're a comedian. I write about comedy. That is my purview. This is not I'm not an expert on Saudi Arabia to say Saudi Arabia shouldn't exist. This is really about in so much as comedy is the face of free speech as an art form perspective, to go to a place that's one of its main things is curtailing free speech and specifically knowing that they are censoring you in the way that is political. It's not like, don't. If it's just like, actually, we're a very religious place.
Yeah.
I know other countries have stuff like that, or they don't talk about drugs.
Yeah.
But it is, do not talk about this country in a way that would bring dishonor to us. Do not talk about the royal family. Like, that is, I remember when Jim Jeffries was talking about, like, it's so important for comedians to go because, like, we're free speech warriors or something like that. But, like, that's not what you're doing.
Yeah.
You're literally going to allow Saudi Arabia to pretend that free speech is being allowed.
Yeah, and to make commercials about you going there and to show other people it's safe to go there. And for a lot of those male, straight comics, it is safe for them to go there. Mm-hmm. The same way it's safe for them to go to Dubai, the same way it's safe for them to go to a bunch of places that queer people and women and some other marginalized groups might not feel as safe going. Once again, I can't stop anyone from making $500,000. And I get that $500,000 is $500,000. Mm-hmm. What I am going to stress is that no one's really mad at these people. When Mark Maron makes a joke about it, he's not mad at you. He's just giving you a little shit. These are just like playful nudges and kind of like ball busting, the kind of stuff that comedy has been known for forever. So I don't know why people are mad that people are busting your balls about doing this.
It is. I mean, well, it's interesting because it is not unlike doing a corporate gig.
It is. It's a corporate gig.
And there's lots of corporate gigs that comedians are doing that they do not publicize. What corporations?
Listen, I did one gig in New York City. I won't say for what company. I opened up the set with being like, y'all aren't evil, right? And they were like, ha, ha, ha. Then at the end of the gig, they were like, hey, so we're trying to create this like large language model system where we get some of your jokes and you do a roast battle against yourself. And I was like, oh, so y'all are evil. Mm-hmm. Okay. So it's a corporate gig, sure. But it also is kissing the ring of an authoritarian government. If you say any shit about the royals in the UK, you're a bit of a hypocrite for taking this gig, and we're gonna make fun of you. You know what I mean? It's a prince. It's a prince.
It is different because it's like a corporation that financially supported 9/11 happening is a little bit different. But no, I mean, like, it is all a factor, right? And I do think the sort of
Jesse's mad because I did that one Raytheon gig. And guess what? I'll do it again.
Well, it is. It's like, right, because it's like these comedians perform at a lot of places, a lot of countries that have different moral standards than we have. I was comedians perform in America that have different moral standards than we personally probably.
I was just in Canada. I understand. Things can be so different.
Or there's states that have laws that are
different.
I think the thing that I sort of go back to is I think a good example is like comedians went to visit the Vatican.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. And it's like the Vatican has a long history of very complicated things doing, or like or just straight up abuses, right? Human rights violations, right? What? And the thing is, they just went to the Vatican, invited comedians. Yeah. Comedians went. Mm-hmm. The only thing was come visit the Vatican.
Yeah.
And if you want to take a picture of the Pope.
Take a picture.
There are no rules other than I actually don't know what rules there were. So it's like you had a thing where it's like Mike Birbiglia went to the Vatican and he talked at length in a special about how he had complicated feelings about the Vatican, where if you were invited to the Riyadh Comedy Festival and had complicated feelings about it that you voice, they then disinvited you.
Yeah. Like, Tim Dillon, Jim Jeffries, yeah.
Because the funny thing was literally their defense of going got them disinvited.
Yeah, their defense of going and saying, no, they invited me and they let me say all this crazy stuff about them. Of course, they're being a bit more lenient now. And then they rescinded the invitations. I think that was very telling. I also think that the difference between this and I'm doing a show in Tampa in a week. That's still a little different. I'm not doing a show for Ron DeSantis.
Exactly.
I'm not doing a show for the government of Florida. I'm doing a show for the people who want to come to side splitters. You know, that's the difference.
That is the difference. The difference is there's such a difference between performing in and performing for. Yeah. Because the thing that I go back to is like, what are they paying for, right?
Yeah.
So it's like you have a normal rate. Let's say it's your normal rate is $100,000 a show, and they're going to offer you $1 million.
Yeah.
You're not going to sell $1 million more worth of tickets than you normally do.
Well, and you know what it is? Because my Arabic's not that good.
Like, literally, and they're not playing in venues that even the case. We'll say nothing of the fact that there's no indication that people sell out there. Because there's not a large ticket buying population there. So then what do you think they're paying you for?
Yeah.
And it's for what benefit they get at. And this is the thing about, this is the sort of Saudi Arabia's, so the idea is the Crown Prince and Prime Minister Mohammed bin Salman, who is the visionary of
MBS,
Saudi Arabia's Vision to 2030. And the basic premise of that is we're going to spend a lot of the money we have to both diversify how we make money, but really to be so financially intertwined with the West that you can't treat us as like a lesser country. You could maybe look past certain human rights violations, which is why he was able to appear with Joe Biden, right? It's like America's not implicated in this.
Yeah.
But that money, the Saudi Arabia's sovereign wealth fund, is like a thing that's buying sports teams. It is like it's investing in Disney, it's investing in Nintendo. And it is overpaying everywhere, losing money because the goal is not to make money from it right now, but is to make Saudi Arabia seem like a place that like comedians feel comfortable going.
Yeah. I mean, that history isn't separate from this festival because this festival is part of that. This festival is part of that big push. This festival, like you said, having more sports, having more boxing matches, having having a soccer team, having more WWE, being able to say, no, we love comedy. That is a whitewashing of clamping down on journalists, clamping down on a comedian, and then having weird stuff happen with that comic and that comic's wife.
Yeah. So the story is in 2019, a comedian and his wife is an activist, specifically about, I believe, women's rights to drive.
Yeah.
And both were arrested. Eventually, that comedian is back, and he's a popular comedian in Saudi Arabia. That wife has, I believe, not been seen for a while.
Yeah. Yeah, and so then, as a comic, you hear that, and you go, oh, I got to take this gig. And once again, you can take I think that's the hard part of the people, you're doing a good job of it, but some journalists, too, are very self-serious. I think even that article that came out in Guardian was so can you believe Mark Norman said this? I was like, I can believe that Mark Norman said a joke about genital mutilation in foreign countries. I can believe that. I can believe that people joked about some of the human rights atrocities in America on their podcast because they're attempting to find levity in this situation that they're going to go do because they said yes to it already.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think the sense is that there are comedians that don't really know.
Yeah.
Or don't care. Or they didn't know, then they are forced to learn more about it, and now had to decide not to care. Some people decided they did care and then ultimately backed out.
Yeah. Nimesh backed out.
Yeah.
And the other thing I would say that, okay, let's say Scholes goes and does this. And as you know, when Andrew Scholes does something like this, particularly about a different ethnic enclave, he has a lot of information. He either learns about them, gathers about them before, and brings it back to New York. So I have a sneaking suspicion that a lot of these comics who are doing this, they're going to have a big chunk of their next hour or their touring hour be about what was it like to go to Saudi Arabia. And, that's the other part of it. If you get material from this, then you're also getting paid in that regard. So that's why some people are doing it.
Yeah.
Some people are doing it for the story.
Fluffy went to Saudi Arabia 15 years ago.
Yeah.
And has a 24-minute story about going to Saudi Arabia that acknowledges, I'd say, almost nothing other than that, and it's basically just about how cool everyone was.
Mm-hmm.
And
as a surprise, the juxtaposition of I was so worried.
I thought they were going to be so backwards.
Yeah, they were so nice
and
to me.
And they were so nice. And I realized and then it's they're not like who you see in Fox News is what he says in the joke.
Yeah.
They're like everybody else. They're cool.
Yeah.
They love comedy. And I believe the goal when they invited Fluffy and the goal when they're inviting all these people is something similar. I'm reminded of the fact that for a few years, fleshlights were given as a gift at every comedy festival. I don't know if you know this. Do you know this? This was like a little bit.
I never got a fleshlight.
You started.
Hey, JFL. Where's my fleshlight?
Yeah.
Hey, Spencer, where's my fleshlight?
Truly was like, I think right before you would be going to these festivals, every festival.
Yeah.
And as a result, I'd say about like 5 to 10 comedians had large sections about using fleshlights.
Okay.
Now, look, Fleshlight didn't pay them.
No, but
they just put them in a situation
Yeah.
to do material. Of course they're going to do material. It's so wild that they have these fleshlights.
Yeah, I wanna carry one around like a Stanley Cup and drink out of
See?
it.
You're already doing it.
I'm already doing it.
And I do think that is sort of what they're hoping because they know that like, someone will do. It's too crazy not to do it. But also, these comedians, one, either would be too scared to say everything about it, or they want the money again.
And guess what? Your reputation, you've made your money back when Chappelle does a good 15-minute chunk about how cool Saudi Arabia was in his Netflix special, when Kevin Hart does it, when Scholes does it. So they're not stupid. This is a very intentional and shrewd business decision on their part.
Do you have a sense of what are the main reasons the comedians are doing it?
I think that...
Is it only money?
I think it's money. I think it's money, global appeal. Everyone loves to say that they're worldwide now. Everyone, as you've noticed, is on tour all the time because that's the only way we make money because there's no fucking TV shows anymore. As you know, there are 2 writers' rooms and no one's quitting Seth Meyers. So the hardest part is that everyone wants to be a global act. Everyone wants to be able to say, I can sell out theaters in America and I can sell out theaters in the UK. And every now and then, I can go to Istanbul, I can go to Saudi Arabia, I can go to other parts of Europe, I can go to Auckland, New Zealand, I can go to Australia. Everyone wants to be a global act because everyone's scared. Everyone also understands that the world has shrank a little bit thanks to social media. So you have these fans that say, please come. I have fans that say, Jay, come to the UK. Here's what people don't understand. To be an American comedian and make money at your UK show, you have to sell so many tickets. And I love doing comedy at Top Secret. I love British people. Y'all have some of the best Nigerian and Indian food that y'all have stolen, but it doesn't make money sense for me to go there. And so everyone wants to be a bigger global phenomenon. They see shows sell out Scotiabank. They see everyone else doing big numbers in Canada, in the UK. So this is why. I mean, also, it's an honor. That's how they get you. They go, it's an honor. It's an honor because then you get to be like, the royal family wants me? The prince who hates comedy wants me? I'm different. I'm special. It's kind of pick me, girl. It's kind of pick me.
Yeah.
I'm different. I'm better. And you know, this is what people are going to say to me when they see this. They're going to say, oh, but Jay, you perform at the Cellar. Yeah, but I perform for New York. And guess what? If Esty and Noam, if they see my set, they're not going to be like, oh, Jay can't say this certain thing. They're going to say, oh, Jay's not doing well. They're going to say, oh, Jay's bombing. That's if you get yanked in New York City off stage for bombing, there's a chance you get pulled off stage because you make one joke about the prince.
Yeah.
The prince that puts people in his own wing in jail, allegedly, if you say something weird about the soccer team. That's crazy.
Yeah, I mean, I think it is useful to talk about the idea of this sort of equivalency or even a fair point that of like, well, like America does bad stuff.
Yeah.
So
that's what everyone's saying. On Threads, on their close friends on Instagram, which close friends should be for butts and gossip. I don't know why y'all are saying stuff like America does bad stuff too. Like we don't fucking know. No, close friends should be for butts and gossip. And we need to get back to that. But they're saying, oh, America's bad too. I don't see how anyone could say that Saudi Arabia is worse than America. No one's saying that. People are just saying, this is the equivalent of you performing for Don Jr. at his behest if Don Jr. could point at people and go, send him to jail.
Yeah.
That's exactly what this is.
Yeah, it is not, I think it's very important to not make it a big conversation about like the grand moralities of all these things and actually a very specific conversation about what is literally happening, which is a country that you do not live in.
Yeah.
The people, the ruling party of that country, not a freestanding promoter.
Yeah.
The ruling party is specifically paying you way more than you have made for a show that will not earn back the money they're paying you. And I don't think anyone going can delude themselves from thinking that like Saudi Arabia is doing it for a reason. Like it's not just, oh, well, it's like if you perform in America, that money is taxed and that tax money goes to the government and that government funds ICE or whatever, which is fair. I think that's a moral conundrum one can question.
And if that's how you feel, then say that every time you get off stage. Yeah. Every time you get a check from a club, be like, I hate the fact that I have to accept this blood money from the DC Improv.
Yeah. I think it is a fair, like, it's almost like I forgive. Like, if you're a non-American comedian and you're performing there, then it's a fair equivalency because you're making a decision to perform in America or you're making a decision to perform in Saudi Arabia. But American comedians live in America. They're performing for Americans. This is not the protests of that sometimes happen when, even in America, when like a state does a bill people don't believe in. They're like, oh, we shouldn't perform in that state. Where you're like, well, you'd be performing for the people who maybe don't like that bill, and you can talk about that you don't like that bill.
And I have that shit going on with me. When I go to Austin, when I go to perform at Creek of the Cave, when I go to perform in Florida, I hate the fact that Texas is passing bullshit. I hate the fact I'm going to North Carolina this weekend. I'm mad that North Carolina was so obsessed with fucking bathrooms. I'm still performing for people who might not necessarily be able to see good, high-quality queer comedy in that place, and I'm not going there to kiss the ring of the governor or the legislators who passed that bill.
Yeah, it's...
and they don't get to dictate what I say.
Yeah, I do think it's fair to be like, it is money, but it's more about the prospect of so much more money going forward. It's like Kevin, of the people that are doing it, Kevin Hart is maybe the least surprising because Kevin Hart's goals, at least last I checked, was to be a billionaire.
Kevin Hart,
and it's hard to be a billionaire in 2025 without involving yourself with the Saudi Arabian company.
Yeah. He's gonna have, he's gonna have a K Hart gas station soon. He don't have the hamburgers.
He should buy Circle K.
He should buy Circle K. Kevin Hart, look at me. We've only chatted once, that one time. Buy Circle K. Jesse David Fox says you need to buy Circle K. I agree. I'm only asking for 5%. That's it. And you selling underwear already. Go ahead and buy Circle K.
I think I had one more point to say about that.
No, okay.
I know what I was going to say.
But do you think that the comics who are doing it, do you think they understand that as a friend, as a peer, as a coworker, even as a mortal enemy, I am not saying you are not allowed to do comedy anymore. I'm not saying that that no one would take that money. All I'm saying is people are going to make fun of you for a little bit. When you come back to America, and that's always been the rule, when you come back to America, your peers are going to make fun of you a little bit. And that's it. You're not going to get banned from anything. You're not going to lose any job opportunities. I don't see any of them losing job opportunities. No one's going to not put you in movies. No one's going to not put you on TV. No one's not going to give you a special. People at the table at the cellar and people on podcast they're gonna bust your balls a little bit.
I do think some thought no one was going to notice.
Yeah.
I think there were I honestly think there were just some celebrities that I think like they just thought like no one's gonna care about this really. I'm not in the news as much anymore. I could probably just like perform in Saudi Arabia.
You're talking about Chris Tucker.
I'm talking about there's a lot of people that I think that it is. I'm trying to think of who's the definitive person that I think probably.
Do you think Chris Tucker is more embarrassed about this or the Epstein Island stuff?
I cannot confirm or deny anything. But I think there are people who I'd be curious to talk to a lot of these people about it, and like it will be interesting to see if literally every interview these people do forever.
Yeah,
if they're going to be asked for a while, just because it's curious. Because I think like Hannibal Buress, right?
Okay,
is the person who would be like, I wonder what he'd be like. I thought no one would notice.
Yeah,
I was like, they're going to do the festival anyway. I might as well have that money and use it for the things that I would use that money for.
Z-Way would have a field day if the Hannibal interview happened.
Now no one's doing Z-Way after this.
Z-Way, I'll do your show. I'm not going over there though.
Is there anyone you're shocked by or surprised by or disappointed by?
Okay, disappointed is never going to be the word just because, like, I just don't know some of these people well enough to be disappointed. No, there's no one who made me go, oh, my God. Because the person that a lot of comics would say is Bill Burr. But once again, I don't have that type of relationship with Bill Burr to be like, oh, no, I never thought he would do this.
Yeah.
I'm going to be like, okay. You know, I want to hear what he has to say about it. This is a very interesting wrinkle in the current Bill Burr kind of love fest that is kind of American comedy right now. Because on the one hand, speaks truth to power, says things, says what he's upset about, had a very, very good joke about Israel and Palestine in the special, understands the humanity of people in the Middle East. I think whenever people just dip into kind of naked Islamophobic talking points about this, I think that's a waste of time and stupid. That's stupid. That's dumb.
I do think, like, anytime if a person's only reason not to do it is 9/11, then I'm like, oh, they probably have literally not thought anything else about it.
Yeah.
Sort of like, well, that's because that's like it's just sort of blanket terrorism.
Yeah.
That I think
they just went, brown? Oh. But I think that the specifics behind me being disappointed in a comic it would really kind of depend on my relationship with them. I know Zarna very well. I'm surprised Zarna's doing it, but I'm also not surprised that Zarna's doing it because Zarna is actually braver than a lot of these people based on the way that women were allowed to do comedy in India and based on being an outspoken woman. So that, to me, that complicates matters a little bit because I go, well, actually, Zarna's kind of okay. She was very brave to do what she did to get over here and start a comedy career and talk about things the way she talked about them, especially with her family. So wait a second, I don't know. No one surprised me. There were names on the list where I was like, they're gonna get some shit. This is what happened. I saw the poster and I was like, oh, people are gonna make fun of them. People are gonna make fun of them. People are really gonna make fun of you.
Yeah.
But like, I don't know if Chris Stefano's fans are gonna make fun of him more than they already do. Mm-hmm. They already make fun of him.
Yeah, I mean, it's like a thing you'll see on Reddit, and people express disappointment, but it's sort of like we'll see how people talk about it, and if it does feel like they have a chunk in their special that feels like they checked with the then people might be more dubious. I think it was interesting. It's like, so Bill Burr, I don't know if you heard he talked about going there.
Yeah.
And
I saw some excerpts today. I mean, I didn't read the full article.
I think the main thing is most of them are like not aware. The big comedians just are ultimately too big to know the specifics of the chatter or whatever. And he was aware that it was different performing in Saudi Arabia than other countries. But some people called it a defense, but he didn't know there was anything to defend about.
Yeah.
So he was just sort of being like, it was nice. Like, his experience was just sort of like, wow, like, look at us connecting. Like, obviously we're in different parts of the world and, like, maybe our politics are different or something like that. But, like, look, they're laughing and I'm doing the same joke.
Yeah.
And
he had a Malcolm going to Mecca moment.
Yeah, and it was a little bit like, so, like, for him, this is sort of the most benevolent take on this festival that is complicated by the nature of their free speech being hindered, which is like, they're sort of like, it's like a world is flat, soft power, like, if it's like super early 2000s, like neocon argument, which is essentially being like, well, like, we're going to bring westernization to Saudi Arabia.
We plant
and as
the
a result,
seed.
they will develop because of that.
It
does seem like Saudi Arabia, that is treating Saudi Arabia like little babies. That aren't intentionally not doing that.
It's you thinking that your Western ideals haven't already been accounted for and they're not getting anything from this.
Yes.
You think you're going over there in a very patronizing and patriarchal way and saying, hey, you guys, isn't McDonald's great? And they're like, we love McDonald's now. Where I think that is, it's naive and gullible to think that's what's going on.
Yeah, I mean, the thing I wrote down is like, it is corny that they're all doing it, right? It's like we're so far the point of selling out that we're immune to it, right? People are just selling out. They're doing ads for whatever. Everyone's doing it. Like,
listen, everyone's taking Blue Chew, okay? If everyone's taking Blue Chew and everybody's dicks are this hard and everyone's doing MMA and everyone's doing testosterone, these men are fucking each other, Jesse. And I think that's what's at the core of this. If you are doing those things, you're having gay sex accidentally.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why they can't go over there, because they're scared.
Yeah, that's why they're scared. Yeah, I think it is sort of like it is a reminder that fans can just be like, it's not cool that you're doing it. Like, that's the feeling. I think,
and they can, and fans will also make fun of you a little bit until you have another great bit that comes out, until you have another like slam dunk podcast moment, and then they'll go, oh, you're very funny at this. That's all that's gonna happen. And I don't want anyone to be a baby about that, because that will piss people off. If you come back to America and you get all heated that people are cracking jokes about it, or that people are asking you, why you aren't wearing a hijab, guess what? People are gonna make fun of you for a little bit. Mm-hmm. That's it.
Yeah. How have the comedians talked about it? Is it a thing that is, for the last few weeks, been just sort of constantly
okay, so people are being, okay, so in a post Hinchcliffe at Madison Square Garden for Trump rally comedy like landscape, because that's kind of that's where I'm gonna draw this distinction. People are being more vocal and voicing and saying names, because we had this happen right after Kimmel. And those two things, and then, earlier in the summer, we had the Colbert situation. I think now people are starting to be more specific, and people are starting to say names more. I like saying names. I don't think it's the craziest thing in the world if you crack a joke about somebody and you say their name. Every now and then you have to be a little shadier. Like, I think the comedy decisions to do this, they should know, because they've talked shit about people, that people are talking a little bit shit about them. And the people who are talking shit about them, half of them are like, I would have done it. That's the other, like, there's a very funny moment about 3 days ago at the Cellar. I was talking to Joyelle Nicole Johnson, and I was talking with Simeon Godson and Joyelle, and Joyelle was like, I can't believe some people are doing it. I was like, I can believe a lot of people are doing it. And then we looked at Simeon, and Joyelle said, Simeon, what's your number to do it? He said, man, give me $20,000. I said, and a brick. He said, and a brick. If I can flip that, he said, man, I might do it just for expense. He was clearly joking and making a joke about it. But I think that's where a lot of comics are. I don't want anyone's family to go without. I think we all should have multiple houses and cars. But I allow people to go over there and do it, as long as when they come back, you get to give them a little shit. That's all. Yeah. I don't know. Just have fun. Make sure when you come back, you can take us being a little shitty towards you. And not even mean, just making jokes.
Yeah, I do think it's like, if you look at the most public comedians talking about it, it is like the Mark Maron video that went around. It's like, he's doing stand-up about it.
It's a bit, yeah. The same people who brought you 9/11. Yeah, it's a joke.
Yeah, and it's like, it is interesting that this has been happening for weeks. And then it's
it's been happening for months.
Yeah. And they've been planning. I think they announced it in May. It's like Zach Woods makes fun of it.
Yeah.
And then like that, you're like, oh, it is interesting that comedy has the ability to sort of like actually break through about this comedic thing.
And a front-facing video from Zach Woods. And like people were very surprised that that's what reminded people everyone was doing it. Because there were whispers on Reddit. Everyone's kind of people were making fun of Bobby Lee and Andrew Santino because their pictures are cartoon on there. So they can be like, that's not us. There's a whispers on Reddit about it. Whispers on YouTube about it. All these, podcasts dedicated to comedy.
Yeah.
We're kind of softly talking about Stavros had that moment on We Might Be Drunk where have you watched it?
Yeah.
There's the funniest part about that is Stavros does manage to get an October 7th joke in there for Sam as a Jewish New Yorker doing that.
Well, yeah, I mean, it is because it is happening. He's performing right around October 7th. It is also the anniversary of the time where Jamal Khashoggi
yes.
And it's
sad but funny. It's so dark. It's incredibly dark humor, but it is so funny because no one expected this to be the result. I mean, whenever Jamal Khashoggi was brutally murdered and dismembered with a bone saw, everyone was like, this is insane. If you would have told all those comics a couple years from now, you'd be like, by the way, my man, thank you.
You'll get to meet that guy.
Yeah, you're doing promo video, you're doing Instagram reels for that dude. That's funny.
I will say the contract, at least that Otsko posted, implied that you were supposed to do promotion for it, and I do not see anyone doing.
I think, I don't see anyone doing pre-promotion for it. I see people doing promo when they're there.
Yeah.
Kevin Hart did one. Chappelle did the hands. I think people are saying good stuff about it, and they're probably being interviewed while they're there, and those clips will also come out.
I think probably the strongest stance against it was sort of David Cross's.
Yeah.
I will read some of, but he's like, all of you bitching about cancel culture and freedom of speech and all that shit, done. You do not get to talk about it ever again. By now, we've all seen the contract you had to sign. You're performing for literally the most oppressive regime on earth. This is truly the definition of blood money. And I do think that was, but that's also like, to your point, that's how David Cross does comedy.
Yeah. And people, you know what people are going to say to that? There are going to be people who say, David Cross, but didn't you just say the N-word one time? Like, people, exactly. So there are going to be people who figure out a way to be like, yeah, you're calling out this bad stuff, but I'm going to call you your bad stuff. And then it's just going to be finger-pointing Spider-Man meme. What I hope is that everyone comes back safe. Because that's actually my biggest fear, and it would create an international conflict, the likes of which we would be mired in.
Yeah.
With comedy, with politics, with that region. Everyone needs to come back. Everyone needs to be treated perfectly. Because that's best case scenario. Everyone needs to come back, and then everyone needs to be made fun of a little bit.
Yeah. I'll be interested to see how much the line of what they can talk to, like, can if they're already being paid, they can't, they're not going to be sued by the Saudi government.
Okay, so the funniest thing that myself and like a few people last night did say, we were like, what if how at JFL they have like the Dirty Show? I did the Dirty Show and I love JFL, but the Dirty Show there is just like Whitney Cummings talking. It's like the level of like what's considered explicit and taboo and kind of like, this is crazy, we'll never get this. That to me is also an interesting part of this, because so much of stand-up comedy in America is pushing back against, you'll never hear someone say this, but now because everyone says everything all the time, you understand how wild we have to be on stage in our set for it to be truly dirty or explicit. There's a different bar. The bar is much lower. The barrier to like being kind of crazy and out there and explicit is different.
Yeah, I do think of all the people, I mean, there's very, very few female comedians that are doing it, but I do
there's
think
three, I think.
Yes, and I think they can make a case of like, I am making progress by appearing there.
That is if they just wear a t-shirt, they are making progress. Exactly.
So, many comedians have passed. I do think when these stories happen to people outside of comedy, they're like, there's this sort of tendency to be like, comedy is all evil, and it's all these evil.
Jesse, do you understand how much I'm inundated with that? As a stand-up comedian who like traffics in like a bunch of cool spaces, there's so many young queer people who don't think traditional setup punchline comedy or club comedy is good. And they don't think it's good. They think it's evil.
They don't think, like, they don't have criticism of it as an art form like maybe I do. They have criticism of it as like a societal invention that is like bringing down democracy.
They think that all of our goals is to like be at the mothership forever.
Yeah, which is like, so the people have said, Mike Birbiglia said he said no, Oscar posted contract. Shane Gillis publicly said no, because I do think he's probably the most famous person that people assumed went.
Yeah.
I am sure if there is a comedian who is very famous, they said no.
Yeah.
Like, they have not announced it, but I would bet all of my money that John Mulaney said no.
Yeah.
How they're not, if there's just no way he's not being asked.
Exactly. John Mulaney probably said no. Shane Gillis said he said no twice.
Well, yeah, I think his thing was, which I believe he said, stop making me offers. I don't want to say yes. The Nimesh thing was really interesting. I think like Nimesh had a fairly, like his take on why he first said yes, which is not the same equivalency, but he's like, oh, I can do jokes about Gaza there that I would be nervous to do here. Like, okay. And then he explained he couldn't get over the fact that there are Indian people that are essentially in de facto slavery. But
that's because like some people don't know that, but there are a lot of people in the global South who work in Qatar and who work in Dubai and who work in some of the Gulf states and Saudi Arabia, and they're brought over there to help build things and construct things. And when you're there, they take your passport away until your job is done. And there's no guarantee you get that passport back. So, I mean, when Tim Dillon made that joke about slavery and then they kind of booted him for it, he's not wrong. It is kind of like de facto slavery. Some people are like, no, it's indentured servitude, which is a crazy argument in 2025. Making that argument is worse.
Yeah, I do think it's interesting. I do think the fact that even the people who are defending going with specifics were not allowed to come is really one of the more telling things, which is oh, you can't even acknowledge that why the specifics of the false equivalency or the equivalency that you're making about the ethics of it.
You can't even make the joke that the prince lets you say whatever you want, but the rest of y'all, the fans, the spectators, the patrons, if y'all say what y'all want to say, have fun. Yeah. But I can get up here and say whatever I want. You can't even make that joke, which should be the joke you should be able to make. But you can't because as per the contract, from what we've seen, you can't talk about the royal family that way.
Yeah, it is interesting because it must be so strange to be a comedian and any comedian, when they're doing a live show, they're going to address the sort of vibe of the unspoken thing of the
You know, when you do a college show, they say, hey, don't talk about this. If there's a thing they don't want you to talk about at that school, they will be like, don't talk about this.
And then I feel like most comedians
talk about it. Because all of us talk about it the minute we get on stage. We go, guess they said back there.
Because the audience is wondering if they're going to talk about it. And if you don't address it, the set's weird. So it must be so weird for all these comedians being like, the thing that I know I cannot talk about. I would feel scared if I brought up any of the things that make it to say. Then it's it must be a weird set. And I imagine they're sort of but it's not unlike corporate gigs.
So this is what I would have done to get around that. I would have pulled a Barack and sent a drone, and the drone would have done my set. That's what I would do. But, I'm thinking 5 steps. I'm playing 4D chess in the sky.
Well, you're getting prepared for Riyadh.
I'm getting prepared for Riyadh 2, Electric Boogaloo.
What does it say? What does it mean? It's been an interesting year for the free speech.
Yeah.
Especially this happening with the Jimmy Kimmel thing.
Yeah.
Because I do think it's I remember there was Jimmy Kimmel. Well, I'll ask the question first, and then I will sort of take my take on free speech. Well, where does it leave? Now, this will happen. By the time this comes out, it is about to wrap up. The thing that I wanted to note, actually, before this, which is, I don't know the specifics of it, but so I'm going to speculate. You can speculate. But by the time it comes out, Jessica Kirsten has come back and has regretted it and said she's donating the money.
Okay, hell yeah.
I don't know specifically why she regretted it. We probably have some ideas of why she regretted it. But I do think, I'm very curious about what the response will be. The sense was that, but she already got the money. So what they be like, give us the money back. You're not allowed to donate it to LGBTQ charities. Because if they all did that, then it'll be like, well, actually, what do we think?
If everyone donated to charities that helped marginalized people here, that helped free speech here, that helped journalists here, everyone would go, oh, we tricked them. We pulled off a heist. Yeah. That would be the feeling, and you would be celebrated. But to do that, you kind of have to be humbled and say, hey, I know I did this thing. As penance, I'm going to do this second thing just to make sure that y'all know I love $500,000, but I'm okay with a little less than $500,000. If you make $500,000 and you give away $100,000 of that $500,000, everyone's gonna be like, "That's good on you." Yeah. Everyone's gonna be happy for you.
I do think that gets back to the fundamental point of you don't want your fans to think you're doing this for the money.
Yeah,
and most people don't. I think honestly, a lot of the comedians that have done it are not the most craven comedians. But some of them are.
But that's the joke that everyone, I'll say it. That's the joke that all of the people who make fun of Tom Segura are going to make. They're going to say, oh, this is another kind of you need this money. Everyone's always out for money. And as a comic, as a peer, you don't want to pocket watch. You want to be like, do whatever, But part of the weirdness of comedy right now is that no one is transparent about money. So everyone has to do all these things to make sure that they're making money. No one says, okay, no one says the acquisition deal is $200,000 for 2 years and then there's a renewal, because everyone wants to be like, no, I got $1 million. You didn't get $1 million. I know who gets $1 million for those acquisition deals. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So now money is involved, and because Tim Dillon kind of talked about money, Nimesh kind of talked about money, people talked about how much Dave is making. Now, because it's a money conversation, if you critique it, comics get to say, hey, don't talk about that money. That's personal. That's private. That's disgusting. How dare you bring that up? So that's like the other kind of pesky fly in the ointment, is that money makes people very uncomfortable when you talk about it and when you get specific about it in comedy.
Yeah, I do think probably a lot of these comedians might be more uncomfortable with people talking about their money than talking about how they're a bad person.
Yes, because they'll say they're a bad person all day, but they will not say how much money they make from a gig.
Yeah. What do you think the lasting impact of this will have on the perception of comedy? Or, do you think it does anything? Do you think it's just furthering whatever narrative that exists?
I think it's twofold. I think people are going to make fun of them. I think people are also going to look back and be like, "Ooh, that was crazy. That's kind of crazy y'all did that. Y'all going to do it again?" And I think the other thing that we'll see maybe in the future, I have the faith and the sort of optimism to think there will be people and kids in Saudi Arabia who were happy they got to see American-style stand-up comedy, and that might make them do comedy. So that will be someone's comedy origin story, that they saw Dave Chappelle, they saw Hannibal, they saw Burr, they saw Louis. They said, oh, I have to do this now. I didn't know I could do this, but I want to do it in Saudi Arabia. I want to do it in Arabic. I want to do it, and I'm queer. I want to do it, and I'm a woman. That's also what's going to happen. Those will be like the 3 lasting things. But the most immediate thing is people come back, and people going to give you a little shit. I don't know why. Because this is what happens. I've done Fallon 3 times now. Whenever I say, oh, you can say Tonight Show with Jimmy Fallon as a way to bring me up on a show, if the host makes fun of it, I go, you got me. Yeah, I like Dua Lipa playing with puppies. Okay, you got me. So what? Yeah. I'm old. I'm 37. I'll be on that show sometimes. I want to meet Questlove. I want to meet Black Thought. But I let people make fun of me because that's the agreement.
Yeah.
And then I tell my jokes.
I do think it's interesting because I think this coming after Jimmy Kimmel, it's really revealing what free speech meant in so much as for like a long time, everyone was just sort of yelling free speech at each other. Like, you're taking away our free speech. Yeah. Free speech doesn't mean this. There's sort of these debates about who actually cares about and who doesn't care about it. And the Jimmy Kimmel thing was useful because it's like, the first response was, where are all these free speech comedians now?
That's what I said.
You did say this.
And Mike Birbiglia said it too.
And a lot of those comedians were like, we don't like it.
And they waited, some of those comedians waited a week. Joe Rogan waited a week because he was elk hunting, which is what I say when I'm cruising, but he was elk hunting. And then he was like, this seems bad.
But a lot more of them did, but some didn't. And you go, oh, cool, that's the divide.
Yeah.
Some of these comedians, actually, free speech is important to them.
Yeah.
And some were always just sort of in the tank. And you can kind of get it divides. And I think this is another time where it's just like, okay, who are the ones who really cared about free speech?
Yeah.
And who are the ones who are like, yeah, I meant free speech, like, I want to be able to say whatever I want.
Yeah.
Like, that's, to me, the art form is I get to say whatever I want.
Yeah.
But actually, it essentially truly was, I don't want to be criticized. And it's like, free speech was never the thing. I think it's like, we're now getting a new list of like, who are the free speech comedians and who are this other group of people.
And I'll say this is maybe a hot take. I think that people are going to make fun of you for having J.D. Vance and Donald Trump on your podcast forever. I think people are going to make fun of you for doing Riyadh Comedy Festival for a little bit. If Theo Von had J.D. Vance on that podcast twice. And now today he's like, I can't believe that they don't like immigrants. My dad was an immigrant from Nicaragua. What? People are going to make fun of him forever for that. Forever. People are not going to make fun of the people who did Riyadh forever. They're going to be like, that was crazy. But there is a difference. I will say there are levels to how much you're going to be ridiculed.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you for having me, Jesse.